Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, the rise and fall of Hollywood's perfect pair. In the golden age of Hollywood, few duos were as beloved as Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. Known for their hit road movies and comedic timing, they were the epitome of showbiz friendship. Yet beneath the laughter and charm, a darker truth simmered. Crosby, despite their on-screen chemistry, had little love for Hope off-screen. He derided him as a talentless hack, refused to attend his roasts, and went so far as to bar their wives from socializing together. It's a shocking tale of betrayal and tension between two comedic legends, once partners, now bitter enemies. But how did it all fall apart? The story of Bob Hope, born Leslie Towns Hope, on May 29, 1903 in Eltham, a London suburb, is one of perseverance and reinvention. Raised in a struggling household, Hope's father, William, a stonemason, decided in 1907 that his family's future lay in America. He settled in Cleveland, Ohio, where Hope's family endured financial hardship. The young Bob, though, was determined to make something of himself. His mother, Avis, a light opera singer from Wales, nurtured his natural ability to entertain. Despite the lack of resources, she encouraged him to sing, dance, and tell jokes, fostering a passion that would eventually turn him into one of Hollywood's greatest stars. Hope's early years in Cleveland were far from glamorous. The family lived in a cramped home near Don's Corners and often took in boarders to make ends meet. Young Bob, however, found ways to entertain himself and his family, developing a knack for mimicry and storytelling. At just 10 years old, he won a Charlie Chaplin look-alike contest, marking his first taste of the limelight. But it wasn't until his late teens that he truly began to embrace entertainment as a career. In 1919, he competed in the Ohio Novice Boxing Championships under the name Patchy East, a tribute to boxer Patchy McFarland. He won several fights before ultimately losing in the finals. In his later years, Hope would joke that he spent more time on the canvas than Picasso, a humorous nod to his early, fleeting boxing career. As the 1920s rolled around, Hope began to focus more seriously on the entertainment industry. He took dance lessons from prominent professionals, including King Rassus Brown and Johnny Root, which helped him secure small roles in vaudeville. His first performing partner, Mildred Rosequist, had to back out due to her mother's restrictions, but Hope quickly found another collaborator in Lloyd Durbin and later George Byron. He started performing in small Cleveland venues, gradually building his reputation in the entertainment world. But it was in Hollywood where Bob Hope would truly make his mark. His partnership with Bing Crosby would go on to define his career. The two appeared in a series of highly successful road films, where their on-screen chemistry delighted audiences worldwide. The pair was the perfect combination of charm, wit, and humor, a duo so iconic that they became inseparable in the public's eye. However, beneath the surface, Crosby harbored deep resentment toward Hope. The bitterness would eventually boil over, leading to a complete breakdown of their friendship. Crosby's disdain for Hope was palpable, with the singer belittling him in private and refusing to attend events in his honor. At the core of the rift was an overwhelming sense of betrayal, a feeling that Crosby, who had once considered Hope a close friend, had been taken advantage of in some way. The truth of what happened behind the scenes is a mystery that has continued to intrigue fans and industry insiders alike. In the end, Hope's legacy remains untarnished by this personal drama. He continued to charm audiences, though the unraveling of his relationship with Crosby casts a shadow on what was once thought to be a flawless friendship. The story of Bob Hope and Bing Crosby is one of talent, betrayal, and the harsh realities of showbiz friendships. It's a reminder that even the brightest stars are not immune to the darkness that sometimes lurks behind the scenes. Bob Hope's rise to stardom. From vaudeville to Hollywood glory, Bob Hope's ascent in the entertainment world was marked by persistence, a keen sense of timing, and an ability to evolve with the times. By 1931, He had already reached one of the most prestigious stages in the country, the Palace Theater in New York City. This was no small feat, especially for a young comedian trying to break through. For Hope, vaudeville became the perfect training ground to hone his craft. While most of his contemporaries stuck to prepared routines, Hope broke the mold. He developed a more natural style, engaging with the audience rather than simply delivering rehearsed lines. His performances were a mix of spontaneous one-liners and dance routines, setting him apart from other entertainers of the era. By the late 1930s, Hope transitioned from vaudeville to radio, where his career truly began to soar. His early radio appearances included hosting The Intimate Review in 1935 and The Atlantic Family from 1935 to 1936. But it was The Pepsodent Show starring Bob Hope that catapulted him to national stardom. When the show debuted on NBC in the early 1940s, it was an immediate success. In fact, it quickly became the #1 show in America. The Pepsodent Show would remain a fixture in the top 5 for over a decade, reaching millions of listeners every week. Hope's approach was unique. Unlike most radio comedians of the time who relied on fictional characters, Hope made himself the punchline. His humor was drawn from real-life events, from the daily headlines to the quirks of everyday life. Hope's rapid-fire style and his collaboration with writers who scoured newspapers for the latest news turned each broadcast into a fresh experience. He demanded a constant stream of material, selecting only the best jokes, a method that would later influence the format of late-night talk show monologues. His success was undeniable. In 1944, he won his first Peabody Award for his efforts to entertain and uplift U.S. troops during World War II. The Peabody Committee praised Hope for bringing joy to the soldiers in a way that could never be truly measured. As the Pepsodent Show continued its reign, it wasn't just a radio program, it became a cornerstone of American culture. Between 1942 and 1944, it held the #1 spot on the airwaves, proving that comedy was not just a form of entertainment, but a powerful tool for lifting spirits during difficult times. Hope's influence on the airwaves didn't stop with radio. Even as radio began to fade in prominence, his reach remained strong. In 1990, he was inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame, cementing his legacy as a trailblazer who reshaped the landscape of comedy and broadcasting. But it wasn't just his work on the radio that left a lasting mark on entertainment. Bob Hope's entry into Hollywood was far from glamorous, and his first film role, Going Spanish in 1934, was a far cry from the star-studded roles he would later inhabit. Hope himself joked that the film was so bad it should be used as a form of punishment, his signature brand of self-deprecating humor. This attitude, marked by sharp wit and an ability to laugh at himself, became his trademark and endeared him to audiences. But his true breakthrough came in 1938 with The Big Broadcast. This wasn't just another musical comedy. It was the film that gave the world the unforgettable song, Thanks for the Memory. Hope performed the song with Shirley Ross, and it became an instant classic. The song's sentimental lyrics, paired with Hope's perfect delivery, encapsulated everything people loved about him: his charm, humor, and unexpected sincerity. As the late 1930s gave way to the 1940s, Bob Hope's star power continued to rise. His infectious personality and ability to blend humor with heartfelt moments made him a household name, not just in radio and film, but in the hearts of millions. What began as a young man's dream in Cleveland, a boy fascinated by mimicry and performance, had grown into a legacy that would endure for decades. Bob Hope was more than just a comedian. He was an entertainer who understood the power of laughter in even the most trying times. And in that, he became an irreplaceable part of American entertainment history. Bob Hope's transition to Hollywood and his USO legacy. Though Bob Hope was already a major star on the radio, Hollywood presented an entirely different challenge. His natural comedic style, filled with fast-talking charm and overconfident personas, fit seamlessly into film. In The Cat and the Canary, 1939, Hope played a nervous hero trapped in a haunted house, blending suspense and humor in a way that captivated audiences. The film's mix of horror and comedy made Hope's performance stand out, and viewers couldn't get enough of his unique approach. But it was Road to Singapore, 1940, that marked the beginning of something truly legendary. This was the first in the Road to series, which would become a hallmark of Hope's career. The film paired him with Bing Crosby and Dorothy Lamour, creating a dynamic trio that became iconic. These films had everything: music, adventure, and non-stop comedy. Crosby played the smooth-talking leading man, Hope was the wisecracking, bumbling coward, and Lamour was the love interest they both vied for. The magic of these films came from their improvisational spirit. Much of the humor wasn't scripted. Hope and Crosby would riff off each other, throwing spontaneous jokes and even breaking the fourth wall. Their quick banter brought a fresh energy to the screen, one that audiences adored. The Road to series ran for over 2 decades, with Road to Morocco, 1942, being one of the most beloved entries. The formula was simple, yet it never grew stale. The films were a celebration of chemistry, wit, and fun. Hope and Crosby didn't just act, they enjoyed themselves, and that joy translated to the screen in a way that resonated with viewers. Even outside of the Road to series, Hope proved he could carry a film on his own. He was a master of parody, taking familiar genres and turning them into hilarious send-ups. The Paleface, 1948, was a prime example of his talent, where he played a cowardly dentist who accidentally became a Western hero. The absurdity of Hope as a gunslinger was part of the joke, and audiences loved him for it. He wasn't a traditional action star. He was the guy who always got in over his head and somehow managed to survive with wit, not muscle. Hope's love for parody didn't stop there. In My Favorite Brunette, 1947, he lampooned detective films, while The Ghost Breakers, 1940, combined horror and comedy, with Hope trying to survive a night in a haunted mansion. He didn't fight his way out of trouble. He talked his way out, and that distinction set him apart from the traditional action stars of the time. But it wasn't just Hollywood that elevated Bob Hope's legacy. It was his extraordinary commitment to entertaining the troops during World War II. Hope's first USO tour on May 6, 1941, marked the beginning of an incredible chapter in his career. That night, he performed his NBC radio show live for an audience of servicemen at March Field in California. The USO, which had been founded just months earlier, was still in its infancy, and Hope's performance was a defining moment for both him and the organization. The soldiers filled the venue, eager to see a Hollywood star perform just for them. Hope's set wasn't just about jokes, it was personal. He tailored his comedy to speak directly to their experiences, cracking jokes about military life, the quirks of life on base, and the absurdity of their world. The laughter that erupted from the audience wasn't just polite applause, it was a raw, heartfelt response from men who found solace in the humor Hope provided. This was more than just a performance. It was a bond being formed between the entertainer and his audience. Hope knew that he had found something special in the soldiers. That night, he made a promise to himself that would change the course of his career. Over the next year and a half, he traveled across the United States, performing at military bases and camps, always tailoring his material to the experiences of the soldiers. Then came World War II, and Hope took his act overseas, performing for the troops stationed abroad from 1941 to 1945. This would be the start of a tradition that lasted throughout his career, with Hope becoming the face of the USO tours. His legacy as an entertainer, comedian, and patriot was solidified by the countless hours he spent bringing laughter to those who needed it most. Bob Hope's global tours and iconic TV career. Bob Hope's commitment to the troops was legendary, and his USO tours took him to some of the most dangerous places in the world. He performed in Europe and the Pacific, often near active combat zones, risking his life to lift the spirits of soldiers who were far from home. His 1944 tour of the South Pacific was particularly grueling, covering 30,000 miles in just 2 months. He visited Hawaii, New Guinea, and Australia, performing more than 150 shows in places with little to no infrastructure. Stages were makeshift, equipment was unreliable, and conditions were harsh. But Hope never let these challenges stop him. The soldiers were what mattered to him, and he made it his mission to bring them laughter, no matter the circumstances. The tours were perilous. German forces tracked Hope's movements, understanding how vital he was to American morale. After Hope had performed in towns, those areas would often be bombed by enemy forces. But Hope refused to let the threat of danger deter him. In fact, he incorporated it into his act, joking about nearby bomb drops or difficult conditions. His ability to find humor even in the most dangerous situations endeared him to the troops, and it wasn't just his comedy that made an impact. He brought singers, musicians, and dancers with him, making each show feel special and unique. Every performance was tailored to the place, the people, and the situation. Hope wasn't just a comedian, he was a symbol of connection, understanding, and support for the men and women serving in wartime. Over the years, Hope became more than just a funny man to the soldiers. He became one of them, someone who understood their struggles, their fears, and their hopes. His Christmas tours during the Korean War were particularly significant, as he performed in freezing conditions, sometimes just miles away from the front lines. During the Vietnam War, where public opinion was divided and the conflict was contentious, Hope faced criticism back home, but remained resolute in his commitment to the troops. His Vietnam tours were some of the most memorable, featuring Hollywood stars like Anne Margaret and Raquel Welch, who joined him to entertain the soldiers. The shows were carefully planned to avoid enemy attacks, with stages set up in different locations to confuse the enemy. For many soldiers, these performances were unforgettable experiences. Many had never seen a live show before, let alone one featuring the stars of Hollywood. Hope's dedication never wavered. Even in 1990, at 87 years old, he traveled to Saudi Arabia during Operation Desert Shield to perform for the troops. By then, he had performed for over 5 decades, covering 57 USO tours across multiple wars and continents. In 1997, Congress named him an honorary veteran, a title he cherished more than any other award or recognition he had received. Hope's connection to the troops and his impact on their morale were beyond measure. He wasn't just a performer, he was a beacon of hope and a reminder of the world beyond the battlefield. Bob Hope's shift to television in 1947 marked another milestone in his illustrious career. His first venture into the medium was hosting the first commercial broadcast on Los Angeles's KTLA. However, his real breakthrough came on April 9, 1950, with NBC's Star-Spangled Review. This variety show showcased Hope's sharp monologues, comedy sketches, and musical performances, and it was a seamless transition from his successful radio career. By this time, he had already built a loyal audience, and the show's success helped cement his place as one of America's top entertainers. Instead of committing to a weekly series, Hope chose to focus on television specials, a decision that allowed him to maintain high-quality productions while also continuing his work in films and USO tours. This strategy set him apart from many entertainers who struggled with the transition from radio to television. In 1950, Hope signed a long-term contract with NBC, ensuring that he would stay on the air for decades. His versatility and ability to adapt to new media kept him relevant, and his television specials became a staple for American audiences, especially during the holidays. Bob Hope's ability to excel in both television and film, while also dedicating so much of his life to supporting the troops, made him a unique figure in entertainment history. His career spanned several decades, touching nearly every aspect of American pop culture, from radio to TV to film, and his legacy as a beloved comedian, entertainer, and patriot remains unmatched. Bob Hope's complex private life and enduring legacy. Bob Hope's relationship with Dolores Reed, which spanned nearly 7 decades, was one of remarkable endurance and complexity. Despite the many contradictions in their lives, the couple remained together until Hope's death in 2003. They built a family by adopting 4 children, Linda, Anthony, Kelly, and Eleonora, from an orphanage in Evanston, Illinois, and later became legal guardians of Tracy Shore, the daughter of renowned New York bar owner Bernard Toots Shore. Their family life, despite the long stretches of Hope's absence due to his career and his well-known affairs, was closely guarded, and they presented a seemingly perfect public image. Reed, for her part, focused on raising their children, while Hope pursued his career as one of America's most famous entertainers. Hope's public persona as a devoted husband and a faithful Catholic stood in stark contrast to his private life. His well-documented affairs with young actresses and showgirls became an open secret within Hollywood circles. Some of these affairs were fleeting, while others lasted for years. Hope's charm, his power in the entertainment industry, and his PR team's ability to manage his image helped keep these stories under wraps for most of his career. But one affair, in particular, threatened to expose him in a way he could no longer control. In 1949, Hope met Barbara Payton, a rising star in Hollywood. Payton was young, beautiful, and ambitious, and she soon became the object of Hope's affections. Despite being married, Hope pursued her, setting her up in an expensive apartment and showering her with gifts for 6 months. Their affair remained a secret, but Payton, desiring more than just a clandestine relationship, began pushing for financial support and a greater commitment. Hope, known for being careful with his finances, refused her demands. By August of that year, he ended the affair and gave her a payout in an attempt to keep the situation quiet. For years, their affair remained hidden, and Hope continued his pattern of moving on to other women. However, in 1956, Payton broke her silence. Her career had fallen apart, and she was struggling both financially and personally. Desperate, she sold her story to Confidential magazine. In the interview, she painted Hope as cold, controlling, and ruthless, exposing the affair in shocking detail. This revelation threatened to shatter the wholesome image that Hope had worked so hard to cultivate. His response to the scandal was silence. He knew that engaging with it would only draw more attention, so his PR team quickly moved to manage the fallout. Though the story eventually faded from the public eye, the damage to Payton's career was irreparable. The backlash she faced in Hollywood was severe. Speaking out against a powerful man had its consequences. Payton's career never recovered, and she spiraled into poverty and addiction. By the time she died in 1967, she had become a forgotten name. As for Bob Hope, he continued his double life with little interruption. His long-term affair with actress Marilyn Maxwell was well known within Hollywood circles, but never exposed to the public. Another affair with Miss World winner Rosemary Franklin lasted nearly 30 years. Insiders reported that young women, many of whom were actresses, models, and beauty queens, would often wait outside his hotel rooms during his tours, hoping for their own brief moment with the famous entertainer. Hope reveled in the attention, but made sure these affairs never interfered with his career. Dolores Reed was fully aware of her husband's infidelities, but she seemed to accept them, or at least make peace with them. In a 1978 interview, Reed admitted that she doubted whether her husband was ever truly 100% true blue. Yet, despite her suspicions and the public's knowledge of Hope's affairs, the couple remained together. Reed's acceptance of Hope's actions, whether out of love, resignation, or a sense of duty to their family, was a testament to the complexities of their relationship. Throughout all of this, Hope continued to maintain his public image as a beloved entertainer, never letting his personal life affect his professional success. While his affairs and the scandal surrounding Barbara Payton were part of his complicated legacy, they did little to diminish the love and respect he garnered from the American public. Bob Hope's career and his charitable work with the USO ensured that his name would remain synonymous with patriotism and the art of entertainment. His dedication to the troops and his contributions to American culture will always define his legacy, even as the complexities of his personal life continue to be part of the narrative surrounding him. Dolores Reed's choice to stay with Bob Hope amid his numerous affairs illustrates a complex aspect of his personal life, reflecting her resilience and commitment. Driven perhaps by her Catholic faith or practicality, Reed consistently stood by Hope, remaining his partner despite his well-known infidelities. No other woman ever replaced her in his life, and she navigated the chaos of his double life with quiet dignity. Similarly complicated was Hope's relationship with Bing Crosby, framed within their iconic film collaborations. When Paramount Pictures struggled to cast for Road to Singapore, the studio took a risk by pairing the rising comic Hope with the established star Crosby. Despite their lack of chemistry off-screen, filming began in October 1939, and surprisingly, the actors found a rhythm, improvising much of the dialogue. Their collaboration resulted in a hit film, launching a successful franchise with 6 more road films. However, their relationship was less friendly than it appeared. Crosby held a dismissive view of Hope, even calling him a talentless hack. While Crosby preferred solitude and rarely interacted with Hope socially, the latter thrived in company. The two stars did not socialize outside of work, and Crosby notably skipped Hope's Friars Club roast, dismissing it with indifference, thereby highlighting the underlying tensions in their partnership. Bob Hope and Bing Crosby's partnership was marked by a mix of rivalry, humor, and public banter that extended beyond personal dynamics, leading to significant tensions. Initially, Crosby was the bigger star, earning almost double Hope's salary during their first road films, resulting in Hope renegotiating for equal pay by 1947. Although they resolved financial competition, their rivalry persisted, becoming a hallmark of their films. Hope's quip, "He's going to sing, folks. Now's the time to go out for popcorn," in Road to Bali, humorously highlighted the competitive nature of their relationship. Their professional collaboration thrived despite their less-than-warm friendship, producing captivating comedic chemistry that resonated with audiences. Their road movies featured a dynamic of playful bickering and mutual mockery, enhancing the authenticity of their performances. As Hope joked, "There's nothing I wouldn't do for Bing, and there's nothing he wouldn't do for me," encapsulating their camaraderie amidst constant teasing. Even as Hope aged, he remained connected to entertainment, attending key events like the Primetime Emmy Awards. His legacy was celebrated with the opening of the Bob Hope Gallery of American Entertainment in 1999, which honored his significant impact on American culture. Hope's final public appearances up until 2000 reflected his enduring spirit, even as his health declined. In 2001, Bob Hope was hospitalized for pneumonia, yet his resilience continued to inspire many. Despite the inevitable decline of aging, he celebrated his 100th birthday on May 29, 2003. In recognition of his legacy, the city of Los Angeles designated the intersection of Hollywood and Vine as Bob Hope Square, and 35 states celebrated Bob Hope Day. Always maintaining his sense of humor, he quipped, "I'm so old, they've canceled my blood type," reflecting the comedic spirit that marked his life. Although Hope had kept his faith largely private, he converted to Catholicism 7 years before his passing, finding solace in his later years. His life was full of laughter and strange moments, including a premature obituary released by the Associated Press in 1998, which was later retracted. Despite frailty in his final years, Hope remained in relatively good health until he passed away at home in Toluca Lake, California, on July 27, 2003. His death marked the end of an era for Hollywood and American comedy. His remains were first interred at the San Fernando Mission Cemetery before being moved to the Bob Hope Memorial Garden. Hope's wife, Dolores, outlived him by 8 years. Following his death, tribute cartoons celebrated his legacy, often depicting him reuniting with Bing Crosby in the afterlife, symbolizing their lasting bond through decades of entertainment.